Hello everybody, my name is Radina and I felt like it was high time for me to record a video like this. Hopefully it's going to help you. Now, I have encountered throughout the years of being in talent acquisition quite a lot of nervous, anxious candidates. And believe me, I've been there and I still, when I go to interviews myself, sometimes I feel this excitement and I also feel initially a little bit nervous. But psychology helps in this quite a bit, and I want to present to you a few of the most common stumbling blocks, if you may, that I've encountered in my years in talent acquisition, especially happening to candidates in interviews, and how you can counter those together with me. Let's start. We have our ways in interviews, especially, if you're striving to be a good talent acquisition specialist, to make this process as objective as possible and as unbiased as possible. But still, we're dealing with people. It is very psychological, it is human. Try to allow for some openness. Don't be too concerned with answering a question the right way, because there simply isn't a right way when people are getting to know you as you. Over-preparedness. Now, I've seen a lot of candidates throughout the years start the interview and it really feels scripted. It feels like they are reading from a screen and they just know every single thing that they are supposed to say. But once again, it's so scripted. It's not allowing for smooth, dynamic conversation. If something happens that kind of distracts you, or a question comes up that's really catching you off guard, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you freeze, you block, and you're not able to recover easily from that. So a way to counter this is by allowing for curiosity and openness and preparing questions yourself. Now, this is very understandable because usually over-preparedness is an anxiety response. What that means is when you get overly anxious, you want to be able to control as much as possible in such an environment as an interview, because your mind is telling you, damn, if I could only prepare for anything that they may throw at me, then, I'm prepared. I can deal with it and nothing's gonna catch me off guard. But obviously, that's not realistic. The interview is a dynamic process. And what happens is you are caught off guard. You are supposed to be fluid. You are supposed to be flexible in this. If you go at it with a curious mindset of, let's see how this interview works out for me, then you're allowing for your brain to take a breather and to actually come up with things on the spot. And yes, you are able to come up with things on the spot that are going to be even endearing for an interviewer. What I mean by this is, if you go being extremely scripted, you are obviously putting a wall between you and the interviewer. They're not really seeing your real reactions, your real responses. They're seeing this nervous ball of energy and they can just gauge that you're nervous, you're anxious. But that's it. They can't go further than this. So you gotta help them. The way to help them is by helping yourself be more curious, prepare some questions to ask them in return, which brings me to my next point, vulnerability. A lot of the candidates think that you have to be in the interview so stoic and so amazingly prepared, hint to my previous point, that you just can't admit any vulnerability. They ask you a question and you honestly don't know the answer to it, or you aren't sure where to start with answering. So I'm not going to share with you, I'm not going to show you that I'm actually batshit scared right now. But guess what? Interviewers are also people. See, we are sometimes anxious ourselves within an interview. We may have even had a bad day the night before. We might have not slept well. Anything might have happened prior to the interview. Amusement brings people together. So we're not talking here about being unprofessional or just cracking jokes within the interview and not really being focused or on point. But we are talking here about something like, if you're caught off guard, there's no shame in saying, hey, I'm sorry, I need a few seconds here or maybe a minute to compose myself and to gather my thoughts, and I'm not really sure how to answer this question, but I am going to come back to you. I have something that I want to say, but it's just not as easy to come up with it right now. So please give me a bit of time. And any sense-driven recruiter is going to allow you that. And if anything, they may also laugh with you and they may admit, hey, yeah, that's kind of a hard question. Don't underestimate the power of vulnerability. Another thing that I notice a lot is, as a candidate, you forget that you have a lot of power. And it's not even about the word power. It's about the realization that you are in this interview to gauge whether the company, team, position are fitting you as well. You're not there just to be pleasant and to be liked by the company. You are there to gauge them, to judge them, to evaluate them as well. That takes off a lot of the pressure, at least from my personal experience, because you don't need to be too agreeable, Think of it as ideally you match, but you might not, and that gives you a better understanding of what your values are, what you're really looking for, what you don't want to compromise with. So if you feel extremely nervous within an interview, just remind yourself that you are there also to evaluate the other side. And it's not that they're going to be interrogating you on their pedestals and their authoritarian positions looking down on you. No. In fact, you're supposed to be on an equal level there in this process. That's it from me for this video. I don't want to make it too long, so hopefully it's going to help you in your journey. So I'm just gonna put it out there, be vulnerable for you, and please let me know if you want me to comment on any other commonly experienced anxieties in the interview process. Maybe I can help you. Bye.